Hey, folks, and welcome into the Horns 24/7 game preview episode. Texas taking on Baylor in Waco this week. Tommy Yarn here alongside Chip Brown. Chip, the last time that these two teams will be playing, they've played each other since 1944. So that streak ends this Saturday for the foreseeable future, at least. Let's go ahead and take it some notes. Before this game last year, Texas won it 38-27 at DKR Memorial Stadium. Texas leads the all-time series 80-28-4, and Baylor is 1-6 in their last 7 games. They just broke a 6-game losing skid last week against Long Island. Chip, start of the final march for Texas through the Big 12 before they head off to the SEC. I know you called it, and a lot of fans are calling it the Embrace the Hate Tour, and it starts in Waco, Texas this Saturday. What do you want to see Texas do to demonstrate that they can leave this conference on a high note and come into the SEC with a bang?
Well, I want to see the Texas offense become more efficient. They're just not as efficient, I think, as we would expect for a team that went to Alabama and battled the way that Texas did, coming back from, being down 16-13 and then Alabama cutting Texas's lead to 27-24 and Texas answering with those 21 fourth quarter points. And then last week we saw Texas do it again in the fourth quarter, but not efficient enough through the first 3 quarters. And I think when you look at going into that atmosphere against Baylor, Baylor has won the last 2 meetings in Waco. Dave Aranda telling his weekly press conference this week that fans have come up to him and said, if you only win one game, make sure it's Texas. And he said, I'm blessed to be able to do something about that. Like Baylor's got some, he's going to have them all primed and ready. We know, I don't know how many of the Baylor players know about Grant Taft swallowing a worm from a tequila bottle to inspire his team to beat Texas 100 years ago. But this game means a ton to the Bear fandom. I just don't know if the Bears have enough artillery to take down Texas in this game. It opened as Texas favored by 14. I think it's gone up to 14 and a half. And Texas matchup wise looks pretty good in this game. So, they pump in some sound there at McLean Stadium. It's going to be loud. And I think, Texas has shown lately, after getting off to a 1-6 start in true road games, they've now won 3 in a row. So, and in some really tough places, at Kansas State last year, at Kansas, and of course at Alabama. So Texas may have found its confidence on the road, and that's going to be huge because we know last year Texas opened Big 12 play at Texas Tech with a loss.
Yeah, certainly want to change the tide from that aspect. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the Baylor artillery that you mentioned. One of the parts of this game that stands out to me is probably going to be Texas's run game offensively against Baylor's defense against the run. Taking a look at the numbers, Texas number 74 in the country in rushing offense. They average 149.3 yards a game. Baylor tied for 105th in rushing defense, allowing 170 yards per game. Jonathan Brooks had the biggest game by a Texas running back last week, finally broke 100 yards. First time a Longhorn had done that this season. CJ Baxter still kind of in the air heading into Saturday. He didn't practice on Monday. We'll probably find out more from Steve Sarkisian on his Thursday presser. But what do you want to see from this Texas run game? And is that where the Longhorns win this game?
Yeah, I mean, that's where you start. I think you look, if you're going to look at the matchup of Texas's offense against Baylor's defense, Baylor struggling to stop the run that's not very characteristic of a Dave Aranda defense. But remember, he fired his longtime right-hand man, Ron Roberts, as his defensive coordinator after last season. I thought that was puzzling. He hired Matt Powledge to run the defense, and then Baylor opens the season against Texas State and cannot stop the Bobcats and TJ Finley, and they get run in that game. I mean, it wasn't even as close as the final score, the 42-31 final score. I mean, Texas State dominated that game. So it's, that's, you wonder what's going on there, but they don't have the Siaka Ikas and the Jalen Petries or the Dylan Doyles that they've had in the past. And so, yeah, I think you run it at that Baylor defense. And if you run it, if you got to run it 50 times, you run it 50 times, and there will be games where you can, throw it to Xavier Worthy, and Sark does a great job of using that, screen game and the throws, at or behind the line of scrimmage as an extension of the Texas running game. We saw that certainly in the Wyoming game with the one pass attempt that Quinn Ewers had in the fourth quarter. It was the wide receiver screen right down the line of scrimmage to Xavier Worthy, who then turns it into a 44-yard catch and run. So for a touchdown, and a huge touchdown that Texas desperately needed because the game was tied 10-10 at that point. So, I want to see Texas pound the ball against this Baylor defense and just wear them down, demoralize them, and then use play action to find your JT Sanders down the seam, or maybe, Adonai Mitchell or Xavier Worthy deeper down the field. But don't be surprised if Baylor comes out and rushing 3 and dropping 8 the way that Wyoming did. I don't think that Baylor has the players that Wyoming has. Honestly, I don't think Baylor's defense is as good as Wyoming. So Texas should be able to move the football against this Baylor defense. But Texas needs to stay out of third down. They're not converting third down on offense very well, so they need to be really good on first down. Our man Eric Henry wrote an excellent article on that at Horns 24/7 this week that everybody needs to read, because while Texas has had some big passing plays on first down, some big chunk plays, they've also had a lot of incompletions that have put Texas in second and long, and then ultimately third and long, and Texas is not converting third downs. I think it's 37%, and that's not championship caliber third down conversion rate. So pound the ball. Don't feel compelled to throw it just to show recruits that you're throwing it a lot. I mean, just win the game, pound it if you can.
Yeah, I'm going to come in here quickly to reiterate that Eric Henry's piece on first down for the Longhorns was a must read over on horns247.com. Great work as always from our good friend Eric. Another good piece of analytics here from Parker Fleming, also known as Stats War on Twitter, that I saw today. Texas 133rd out of 133 FBS teams in offensive success rate. But on the flip side, they're number 1 out of 133 in defensive success rate, and that's what we'll talk about next. This Texas defense against Sawyer Robertson, the Mississippi State quarterback transfer, who has played the last 2 games for Baylor in place of Blake Shapen, who went out with an MCL injury against Texas State in the opener. Through those 2 games, or through those 3 games, I believe he came in during the Texas State game as well. 28 of 62 for 444 yards, 1 touchdown, but 3 interceptions. Chip, this is a inexperienced quarterback when it comes to Big 12 play, and it really seems like he's struggling. This seems like a very, not to say easy way for this Texas defense to run away with this game, but it certainly seems like they could have a massive impact on this one the way that they've been playing.
Yeah, Sawyer Robertson. Remember, Dave Aranda was reluctant to use the transfer portal a couple years ago, and I think it caught up to him last year, and And so then he did hit the portal, brought in 13 transfers. Sawyer Robertson from Mississippi State was one of those transfers, and he has really struggled. I mean, to say the least. And here's the weird thing. You mentioned his what 45% completion rate, but he leads the Big 12 in yards per completion. So when he does hit, he hits big, and he hits usually Ketron Jackson, another transfer who came in from Arkansas at the wide receiver position. And it was interesting because I was talking to some of the guys who cover Baylor and was asking about Monterey Baldwin, because Monterey Baldwin, a speedster, has been a big time playmaker for Baylor, but he only has 2 receptions. And, they are getting the sense that maybe he's kind of disenchanted with the offense, that maybe there's some friction there. And that's why he might be on the outs with what's going on with the Baylor offense. But they do have Richard Reese, the sophomore running back who almost ran for 1,000 yards as a freshman last year. He's a speedster. I don't think they're going to have Dominic Richardson, the Oklahoma State transfer, who's been way better for Baylor this season than he was at Oklahoma State last year. Oklahoma State obviously has other problems. Maybe that is why Dominic Richardson is now at Baylor. But he's got a high ankle sprain, and they're going to miss him because he's been averaging 5.2 yards per carry. But, Baylor wants to run the football, and Texas has been good at stopping the run. And so that's a formula for success. If you can get pressure on Sawyer Robertson, get him to throw it up for grabs, there should be some turnovers in this game for Texas, which has been a vacuum cleaner when it comes to collecting turnovers. So last week, obviously, with the pick 6 from Jaron Thompson, his second interception he had interceptions in back-to-back games, with also an interception late against Alabama. So I look for the Texas defense to make some big plays in this game and to give the offense some short fields.
I completely agree with you. I think this is a big turnover potential game for this Texas defense that already has 5 interceptions on the season. That was such a big emphasis from Pete Kwiatkowski going into camp. So far, it's worked out pretty well for him. All right, Chip, everybody's favorite time now on our game preview. Score predictions. You go first.
Yeah, I think the defense comes through in a big way for Texas here. I like Texas to win this one 31-7. How about you, Tommy?
I was not very far behind you, my friend. I had them at 28-7. So just a 3-point difference between us. I guess great minds think alike, don't they?
Great minds, baby.
All right, so 28-7, my prediction, 31-7, Chip's prediction. We will find out which one of us is closer this Saturday at 6:30. That game kicking off on ABC over at McLean Stadium in Waco. I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Horns 24/7 game preview segment. Be sure to stick around horns247.com for more content leading up to this game. And the Horns 24/7 YouTube channel will have our instant reaction post-game and the post-game analysis 24 hours as well. 24 hours after, I should say, as well. So thanks again for joining us. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you're the first to know when new content drops. For Chip Brown and the rest of the crew, I'm Tommy Yars. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.